Welcome everybody. My name is Scott Palm. I'll answer questions at the end. I have a lot of experience being disabled. 57 years to be exact. That experience qualifies me as an expert in my field. Today I'm going to advocate for all people with disabilities and hopefully no one will come in and challenge me. Let's start with just a little background about me. A few years ago, I started a business called Palm Tree Enterprises. I'm an expert, if you will, for people with communication issues as well as for disability awareness. The reason I started Palm Tree Enterprises, and why I feel so strongly about it is, because I know augmentative and alternative communication has opened many doors that be closed otherwise, such as being here today. I used to feel stupid, shame, weak and worth less, because I couldn't express myself. I want to make sure that nobody feels that lonely or isolated. In the 80s, I was working for a U.S. congressman. One time, the National United Cerebral Palsy Telethon was happening, and the congressman thought, since it was an election year, he should appear on the local portion of the telethon with me. I went down to the TV studio and met him. This was before DEC, talk-speech came out, so my communication device wasn't clear enough to be understood in person, not to mention on TV. DEC, talk, was, and still is, the speech output component of all devices available. It has an intelligent ability rating of 98%. That means if somebody uses DEC, talk to 100 people, 98 of them will understand. The rest weren't listening. Are you listening? Today, people with disabilities have many choices of voices, and some are getting quite clear and sophisticated. That is far better than the 63% intelligent ability rating people had in the early 80s, like at this particular telethon. So when the congressman and I did the spot, I was only able to use yes or no, otherwise people would not understand what I was trying to communicate. So when the congressman and I did the spot, I only could say one word. That was a yes. That was very difficult for a chatterbox like me. Can anybody say just one word to express themselves? I bet the answer is this. No. I felt shame because I was an adult with thoughts and feelings like anybody else, and I had reduced myself down to one word. Have you felt like this before? It feels awful to have so much inside and not be able to communicate it. How would you feel if you were unable to communicate your needs and nobody around you either couldn't understand or didn't want to understand what you needed? I would like everyone to close their eyes and imagine themselves during a time that they were not understood. Do you remember how frustrating it was? You can open your eyes. Now I want you to imagine not being able to get out of bed without help. Try to imagine that you need to use the bathroom. You need assistance, but everyone is too busy to help you. Imagine that you are in bed and you are thirsty, but you are not able to just get up and get water. Imagine that you would love to go see a movie, but because there is not enough staff, you have to miss out. How would you feel if you were hungry and were not able to just go into the kitchen and make yourself something to eat? What about if you really wanted to visit a friend and you followed all the rules put in place in order to do so? You contacted the lead staff and the program manager. You requested the van and put it on the necessary calendars. You are so excited to go see your friend and tomorrow is the day. Then you are told that you can't go because there is not enough staff to take you. How would you feel if you had new staff come into your home and view you at your most vulnerable? What about virtual strangers assisting you while you bathe? Possibly there are as many new staff as the turnover rate can be high. How would you feel if you wanted desperately to be independent and people took away your power by deciding things for you? These are just some of the things I have gone through and felt as a person with a disability. Books today I'm going to share with you some of my experiences and my viewpoints. All names have been changed or omitted to protect the innocent and guilty alike. Greater teamwork begins with understanding our issues. Teamwork is the ability to work as a group toward a common vision, even if that vision becomes extremely blurry. Author unknown. Here is a short list of some of the bigger issues I have faced as a person living with caregivers. Obviously, one of the biggest issues is communication. Not just yours and mine, but mine with other staff and yours with other staff as well. We will also discuss who knows what is best for me. The reality that paying someone doesn't make them care. Seeing the disability and not the person. Cultural differences. And of course, an ongoing issue for every company is always staff shortages. So let's begin with communication. Communication can cause all sorts of problems. Lack of communication can cause even more. This is a great quote from Robert McCloskey that explains just how I feel sometimes. I know that you believe you understand what you think I said, but I'm not sure you realize that what you heard is not what I meant. I often run into my caregivers not really listening to me. Perhaps they are busy, but I believe that everybody wants to be heard. It would be great if what I said could be paraphrased back to me, so I really know that what I said was understood. If what I said was not understood, I would like to have questions asked until there is an understanding. I would also like to not be rushed. Please allow me to speak at my own pace. I feel very disrespected when I'm cut off or not allowed to finish what I need to say. Don't try to guess what I'm thinking, feeling, or trying to say. That is how wars are started. It is also demeaning as an adult for people to tell me how I feel, or even worse, how I should feel. A little while back, I had a situation that was upsetting to me. My friend who I saw every single day was leaving the area, and I was sad about it. My staff informed me that I should not be sad. They said I was being silly. I was grieving the loss of my friend, and when I was told that my grief was not right, it made me question myself. Confidence can be an issue for people who are not given the opportunity to have faith in themselves, their feelings, and their choices. Luckily, I had other people outside of my staff that told me that grief was completely normal, and that I was allowed to feel any way I needed to feel. Not everyone has backup support like I do. Does anyone here remember a time when you had feelings about something, and you were told that you shouldn't feel that way? Being told not to feel an emotion does not make you not feel it, it just makes you feel as though something is wrong with you. That is not a good feeling, and it is a barrier to communication. If someone is making me feel as though something is wrong with me, they are not the person I really want to spend a lot of time communicating with. The trick with that is that some people are not able to voice that they feel this way. Some people may not understand what is going on. It is basic human instinct to resist things that do not feel good. Some people get labeled as difficult when they have just learned to respond in the way they do because of how they feel, and they are unable to understand or voice it, so they just respond. I'm not saying I don't want input from you. If you think I'm missing a piece of information that I need to make a good decision, please inform me. I may need help sometimes. I'm just saying to do it respectfully and with my input involved. I need communication in the same way that everyone else does. I need give and take. I need respect. I need understanding. I need what I say to have value. I need to be heard. Really heard. Just like all of you. Another complication in the system I live in is that it isn't just about my communication with you. It is about my communication with your coworker and your communication with your coworker. With many people working, there needs to be good and constant communication amongst everyone. If there isn't, it usually affects me. Someone forgets to inform someone else of something they said yes to, or I miss appointments, because no one followed through with what they said they would do. This area of communication can get very confusing. I have to trust and believe that my staff are doing what they say they are going to do. My staff also have to trust that their co-workers are following through with what they said they would do. With all the people involved, and with such dynamics, there is a lot of room for errors. Good communication between everyone could cut down on complications in my life by quite a bit. So who really knows what is best for me? It is my understanding that the payment you receive is to support me, not to live my life for me. Supporting me in making good decisions is fine. Making decisions for me is not fine. Again, I'm an adult. It is disrespectful for you to assume you know what I'm feeling and thinking. You may think you know. You may even be right, but the correct thing to do is to ask me and respect my answer. If I need help seeing an issue from another perspective, then help me please, but don't just make decisions for me, unless of course it is life or death. Can you remember a time when you made a decision for someone else without letting them have input in their own life? Can you remember a time when someone else made a decision for you and didn't let you give any input? How did that make you feel? So let me just point out some of the obvious differences. My friends are there when I need them. Most of the time. They are there when I need to talk, when I'm sad, when I'm happy. Paid staff will listen to me if they have time. Even my most caring and thoughtful staff have responsibilities they must attend to and often are caring for numerous other people, so even if they really wanted to listen to me, there is a great chance that they just can't. This is not their fault. There are some subjects the staff can't discuss for various reasons. That's why friends are personal. I can talk to them about anything and everything. Staff is not allowed to be personal. This can be a problem if you have no friends or family to talk to, but you have an issue that is inappropriate to discuss with staff. Really though, there is a chance that the person with a disability doesn't really understand the difference between personal and not personal or appropriate and inappropriate. And again, it is not staff's fault or responsibility. Another difference is the staff come and go. And come and go. And come and go. That's the nature of this field, or life for that matter. But friends are forever. It is very helpful to me that I have a constant world that doesn't change as often as my immediate world of caregivers. My friends keep me anchored and sane. If you work with people who do not have any connections with non-paid people, they could be being cheated out of one of the best parts of life. Sometimes, it seems that my staff does not understand the importance of friends in my life. These relationships need to be nurtured for everyone. They are vital to everyone else. Why wouldn't they be important for people with disabilities? This is Lori Bannister and her family. She is a very good friend. She lets me vent when I need to, and we have monthly outings for lunch or coffee. Lori was the apartment manager where I live. We used to talk every time I was in the office. We had developed a good working relationship. But then she left. Recently, I got pneumonia and was in the hospital. The first night in ICU, everybody I know was there. I was opening my eyes and looking at people, but I wasn't interacting. Then I heard Lori say my name. I immediately turned my head towards her. She went on and spent every day with me for the next 3 weeks. Everyone should have a Lori in their lives. I'm not discarding the contributions by everybody who was there to my recovery, such as my friend, Yvonne. Not mentioning a few people from DD, Snohomish County DD Advisory Board, Service Alternatives, and others. However, this role can be filled by anybody close to the person. Besides personal relationships, community connections, social activities, and meaningful employment are also important. Can you imagine your life without connections, work, and social activities? Why would it be different for someone just because they have a disability? Everyone needs to feel connected and valued. It may not seem like much, but going to Starbucks with friends or having lunch at Olive Garden improves my quality of life. I'm living. I'm involved. I'm alive. Now, I would like to introduce you to a unique friend. Being a Trekkie, it has been similar to going warp speed with inspiration of spirit. It all started on August 24th, 2013. And my sister took me to the Star Trek Seattle convention, which was a belated birthday gift. At one point we were outside of the Venter room, talking. And then, this tall woman was walking by. She stopped because the display on my communication device had caught her eye. She asked what it was, and of course I told her. It was Chase Masterson of Star Trek Deep Space Nine and other things. We became friends. Who is Chase Masterson? I'll show you. In April 2014, I asked Chase to participate in my ISP and she agreed. A ISP, or Individual Service Plan, promises a positive consumer outcome through careful planning, and in my case, I wanted to go to Las Vegas for the Star Trek convention. I needed $2,500. I needed $2,500. I joined an online fundraising site as a first step. Chase asked her fans for help. They donated. Then somebody suggested I should approach my assisted living provider and the company that made my communication device for donations. I reached my goal. That trip was good. But recently, I went back. But the trip was for Star Trek's 50th and was privately funded. Here are some pictures. So you may be wondering what Star Trek means to me. Well, I will tell you. I believe in Gene Roddenberry's vision of the future. We, as a race, will get past our petty difficulties or conflicts. There will be no war. There will be no disease. Simply put, the future will be better. There will be equality. There will be no more cultural, physical, professional, or social barriers for people with disabilities. Everybody will be on equal footing. Case in point. Geordi LaForge. He was the character on Star Trek Next Generation. He was the most motivational character to me. For those who don't know, Geordi was blind and had a very cool 24th century piece of assistive technology to see with. His visor enables him to see the entire light scheme. However, what makes Geordi so motivational is he was a lieutenant junior grade on the bridge of the Enterprise as its helmsman. But then, he got a promotion to chief engineer, a position of respect and status. This was despite his disability. You may be thinking that Star Trek is just a TV show. There are millions of people who believes in the lessons that Gene Roddenberry had in mind. One such person was named Dave Sparks Jr. of Albuquerque, New Mexico. He had Duchenne muscular dystrophy. Duchenne muscular dystrophy is a form of muscular dystrophy. It worsens quickly. That caused him to be confined to a wheelchair. So, Dave had to be on machines to live, so moving around was difficult. Then unfortunately, he had lost his will to live. But then, he began to watch Star Trek. One day, he found out there was a convention near him. He talked his sister and his nurse into taking him. So they loaded up their van and off they went. It so happened that William Shatner was there doing a documentary called The Captains. And Dave had a backstage pass to meet him. Shatner was so impressed with Dave that he put him in the documentary. After the documentary, Dave's view on life improved. He began to go to more and more conventions. As a result, Dave had become a celebrity with his own fan base. People used to ask him for his autograph. He found his place in life with them, Dave went on, and met all of the Star Trek casts and creators. They were so impressed that they made him a Starfleet captain. William Shatner said Dave embodied the real meaning of Star Trek. On December 2, 2011, Dave died. His sister said his heart gave out shortly after the last Star Trek series went off the air. Was Captain Dave the ultimate Star Trek fan? Perhaps, or perhaps not. But it might be interesting for you to know that at the convention in Las Vegas they had named a theater after him. Dave lived out his dream on this Earth in this reality in this timeline. Imagine on another Earth, in another reality, in another timeline, Captain Dave was in command of the Enterprise. What then? I would like to encourage the direct staff and other professionals to consider helping your clients to achieve their dreams. After all, Dave achieved his dream with the help of his sister and his nurse. And I achieved mine, thanks to Chase and others. Star Trek taught that there was infinite diversity and infinite combinations. And it's so true today, because who knows? This might be possible. Palm Tree Enterprises has gone beyond the horizon. I have entered a jointed endeavor. The Pop Cultural Hero Coalition and Palm Tree Enterprises teamed up to assist Rebecca Isabella Aguirre and Scott Holland, two people with disabilities living in an adult group home in LA. They are Chase's and my friends, and they needed a little help to get funds for photo ops at the Star Trek convention. Palm Tree Enterprises started an online fundraiser, and in 3 hours it was a success. What happened? We all had breakfast with Chase and she awarded Rebecca and Scott. Rebecca picked no other than Scott Bakula, because he is the bomb. And then, this is us at Quark Spar listening to Chase singing. For your information, Quark Spar was on Star Trek Deep Space Nine, and they recreated it in Vegas. Now I would like to share a story. While traveling to a presentation in Spokane, we stopped in Wenatchee for lunch. On a spur of a moment, I called my friend Carmen Payton. We went to high school together. We had a unique arrangement for the time, because she was the first of what they called peer assistants I had. Our English 100 teacher had a talk with the whole class and said this. Tomorrow a fellow student in a wheelchair is joining us. He is like you all but he can't speak, so he uses a word board. He is going to need help with the assignments, and when we have discussions, so I'm going to give anybody extra credit. 3 people volunteered. It worked. This was used for the next 3 years. Today Carmen works in special education and works with a 9-year-old boy with cerebral palsy who uses a communication device in a wheelchair. She has said that I inspired her. The reason that I'm bringing this up is to say, try something new or different. Quite often dealing people, they focus on my disability and do not see beyond my chair. You can also insert a communication device, stutter, glasses, walker, sign language, etc. here depending on the person and their disability. It is difficult for my caregivers to imagine that I'm a person with thoughts, feelings, hopes, and dreams when they are trying to finish their list of job tasks. It is difficult to face this in the community and even harder when you also have to deal with it in your own home. I think that if the caregiver really gets to know us and finds some common ground, that will help to see the person and not just the disability. Please remember that we are adults and not children. I know that can be debatable at times, but I have seen lots of people in the community that we could have this debate over. Lots of people misbehave in public. It isn't just people with disabilities. Underneath my disabilities, I'm a real person who deserves respect. I'm a real person with issues that are just as important to me as yours are to you. I want to briefly talk about cultural differences. This is not meant to be prejudicial in any way, but it is a reality for me and for a lot of people who have disabilities. People of different nationalities value people with disabilities differently. It seems to me that there are as many differences as there are cultures. I have some caregivers who, because of their cultures, do not see me as a person. That is just how they were raised. They also seem to need to take care of me rather than support me. I don't really understand all the different cultures, but I do know ours, and ours is about independence and quality of life for all people. Differences in cultures add to some communication difficulties as well when there are other languages or accents involved. If I can't understand what my staff is saying, or they can't understand me, that adds in a whole new level of difficulty. I'm not saying we should not have other cultures, I'm just saying that it requires a little more patience and understanding, because it has added another level of difficulty to the mix. One last thing about cultural differences, there is a difference in culinary skills. Some people who are from other areas do not have the same understanding of spices and food that people who have cooked for me for a long time have. It is sometimes difficult for me to get used to another style of cooking. This isn't anybody's fault, it is just a reality of life as a person who requires paid assistance. I wanted to point it out because it is never my intention to hurt somebody's feelings, but I don't always like the food that is cooked for me. I would probably not feel comfortable telling the caregiver this, so I thought I would just make you all aware of this just in case you come across it. My former program manager, and I made 2 short videos about what it's like being disabled. I would like to start with what not to do. May I have dinner, please?
Okay, I will be there soon. Thanks, guys. What do you want for dinner?
Sandwich.
You want fish? Do you want chicken? What about salad? I don't know how to make sandwich, so can I make for you maybe ravioli? Hold on. Hello, Alejandro. Come here. Salami. Oh, I'm sorry, hello. Oh, the honey.
You don't want to know what he's saying.
Do the honey, okay? Hello. That's a whole thing. Okay. Okay. Sure. Okay, bye. What do you want to again?
Sandwich.
I told you I don't know how to make sandwich. Maybe I can make for you ravioli. Very easy.
The first one is about what staff shouldn't do. This one is about what staff should do. This is an often occurrence in my life. I get so frustrated. And now this is what I would like it to go. May I have dinner, please?
Yes, I'll be there in just a few moments.
Hey, Scott, what you want for dinner?
Chicken.
What type of chicken? How do you want me to cook it?
Fried.
Fried chicken? Mashed potatoes? Veggie? Okay. Let me go see what you have for, vegetables, okay?
Lastly, I want to discuss staff shortages. Everyone is aware of how the staff's lives are messed up because of staff shortages. I want to discuss how it messes up my life. When there are staff shortages, I have to adjust my life to fit the staff schedule. This limits what I can do, what I want to do, and when I do it. I do realize that your job can be hard, but please don't expect me to lead my life according to how many staff people are on duty, or in your perception that what I want to do is too much work. We can come to some agreement. If we make an agreement for you to support me to do something, there needs to be consistent follow-through. I also realize that staff shortage is life, but life goes on. My life doesn't stop just because your coworker doesn't do their job. This limits my life more than you can even imagine. It is a frustration for everyone, but how frustrated would you be if you had to rely on someone else for everything in your life and they were not reliable? It is a completely different level of frustration when your life must stop because of other people. Other areas that have been affected because of staff shortages include my personal care. People have rushed through their job, which has been uncomfortable to me, and when they rush, they have forgotten important things. I want to be proud of how I look when I go out in public. I don't want to be dirty or unkempt. In my case, I'm completely reliant on other people to help me with this. I also rely on my staff to stock my backpack when I leave. On occasion they have forgotten important things due to rushing. I don't know the answer to staff shortages, I just know that I don't want them to be what I have to live my life around. I'm sure you all have an idea in your mind of what the perfect participant or client looks like. I would like to share with you what my perfect caregiver looks like. My perfect caregiver would not only be available to go on trips, but would love to go on trips, have their own mode of transportation, so I wouldn't have to rely on DART or access. As much as I would love to have Superman and or Wonder Woman for staff, it wouldn't be realistic. So I have. Are you ready? Positive. Super staff. Super staff, I want to go to the beach. My perfect caregiver would always be available, would not only be available to go on trips, but would love to go on trips, have their own mode of transportation, so I wouldn't have to rely on DART or access. And if they don't, I want a vehicle like this.
Vital. Motor car that defines the structure. 550 horsepower. Standard. Race-tuned suspension. Standard. Xenon headlamps with infrared vision. Standard. Metallic paint with nanotech enhanced camouflage. Access to military self-reservation. Damage repair. High-speed internet overpowered hybrid artificial intelligence. GPS. Standard. Driver. But really, enough about me. Rider coming in February to NBC.
I love that last option, don't you? Anyway, my perfect care provider would be a great listener. Smart, creative, outgoing, engaging, respectful, and funny. Do you know what your participants need? Do you know how they see you? Do you know what they think you are doing right? Do you know if they have any needs not being met? What is their idea of the perfect caregiver? I have a dream. I dream that someday all people will be equal. I believe that in the future everyone will look for a person's value and contributions, rather than at what they perceive as lacking. I believe that someday all people will be able to fully participate in all that life has to offer, and I believe that someday the systems will be changed to better support people with disabilities and the people who provide support to people with disabilities. We have come a long way in a short time, and Washington State is at the forefront of progress. Until that future comes, we need to work together with respect, compassion, empathy, and communication. Working together is the key to understanding. Understanding leads to a better situation. Who wouldn't want that? These are the people who I look up to. The first one is Dave Sparks, and it's self-explanatory. And next is Snoopy Botten. Snoopy is a celebrity in the augmentative and alternative communication circles. He has cerebral palsy and uses a communication device. One of his loves is music. He used to be a street performer in Minnesota in the 80s. The communication devices that had talk speech had this complex codes for singing. Everybody used to have difficult time with it, but not Snoopy. Now, he is a pastor. Let's move on to the world's motivational man, Stephen Hawking, physicist and fellow Trekkie. Next is Gene Roddenberry. The creator of Star Trek. Roger Roddenberry, Gene's son. He took over for his father after Gene died in 1991. Josh Blue, a comedian with CP. Finally, I would like to acknowledge following people, because this presentation wouldn't exist the way it is now. Are there any questions?
So Scott, what can the companies or government do so you don't have a changeover in caregivers?
Actually, more money would be helpful.
If you could meet anyone in the world, who would it be?
Michelle Obama.
Good choice.
How often do you have to replace your tech or TED Talk?
When it dies.
Okay, so Scott, where do you like to go the most and why?
Vegas to the Star Trek convention to see my Star Trek family.
What do you see as the most valuable asset for a caregiver to have?
Compassion.
Scott, do you think age is a barrier when it comes to the person who is taking care of you? The age of the caregiver, do you consider young people being more compassionate or old people?
Physically it could be a problem, but mentally no.
Hi Scott, I'm Lynn. I saw you have a sticker that says I love my cat, so I wanted to find out, do you still have your cat and what's your cat's name?
His name is Simon. My doctor making him to be my emotional support.
Okay, Scott, do you think Washington states need to do more on training the caregivers?
I think they should get paid.
Hi Scott. At what stage in life did you decide to become a motivational speaker?
Well, I'm an ambassador for the Prankey Rummage Company that made my communication device. And one of our duties was to help people. But it was just in a class and one time. I started Palm Tree Enterprises so I could help more people.